Speed, tell me in no uncertain terms why men and women need to connect with each other.
Because it's the only way to live a full life. We both have huge ranges of masculine and feminine inside of us. And if you're not in touch with your own and with those in other human beings, you're missing out.
Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be having a conversation with a dear friend and a collaborator, Speed Weed. He's a 20-year veteran TV writer and producer, and recently, in the past 3 years, has taken a deep dive into men's embodiment work. His practice draws from Qigong, yoga, Tantra, and many other wisdom traditions. Speed, thanks for being here, and I'm so excited to talk with you today.
It's so great to be here, Lisa.
I thought I'd start off with sharing our history, a little bit about how we know each other. And I think we're going on close to a couple of years now, being connected through embodiment work and polarity work, specifically under our shared teachers, John Wineland and Kendra Kunov.
Yeah, we're in teacher training together and have done many practices together and assisted together and held space together. And I really enjoy working with you.
You want to say a little bit about how you came to do that work with John and Kendra?
Yeah. About 3 years ago, I was 5 years into a marriage falling apart. Not an uncommon story. And I looked around and realized I had no male friends in my life. I was feeling very lonely. I had, as I think a lot of people do, I had made my wife my everything. And that was really not sustainable to me. And I met a guy who really had a grounded depth and an open heart and a very calming presence on my nervous system. And I said some version of, I want what you have. How can I get it? And he brought me into, at first, this was in the time of COVID, early COVID, he brought me into a weekly men's embodiment circle over Zoom with a teacher named Amir Khaligi, who's actually a longtime friend of John's and also a student of John's. And I started there. And that on my very first call, his circle is on Wednesday nights. I was paired in a partner practice with a man I'd never met before. And I was instructed to breathe into my belly and open my heart and look into the left eye of this man that I'd never met before. And Lisa, I unlocked. I fell apart. I cried. And this man that I had never met before held me over Zoom just with his gaze and with his presence. And I was hooked. I wanted to do more and more men's embodiment work. And that's where I started. And there's more to say from there, but
yeah, that's beautiful. And I want to share a little bit about how I came to the work also. But the thing I want to note is that common experience that we've both had and that so many people have when they get the opportunity to simply look into the eyes of another person and to experience that intimacy that incredibly we don't always or often get an opportunity to have in our day-to-day lives. And the emotion that can come up from that is beautiful and such a common experience. So I also came to the polarity work in John's teacher training program after a divorce and knew that I had some serious healing to do also with the masculine for me. And it's led me on a really deep journey of healing and led me to a place where I want more and more and more. And just I'm so grateful for the community that is forming around this work, for both our circle of teacher training, teacher trainers, but also the larger community that's starting to solidify and grow in the world that's so committed to connection between people. And understanding of polarity and the impact it has on relationships and all the different ways that we can make, improve our ability to have deep relationships and epic love.
So I'd love for us to geek out for a minute on polarity and what it means. I mean, you and I talk about it a lot in teacher training and when we bring our offerings to the world. And I think it can be misunderstood, and it's really much bigger and broader than it's kind of infinite, right? It's an embodied way of unpacking yin and yang, deep Taoist philosophy, Shiva and Shakti. There's so many wisdom traditions. And after working in Amir's circle for a little bit, I started to get the sense of what my inner feminine and masculine are. There's a polarity within each of us. In fact, there's not just one, but many polarities. There are emotional polarities within us. There are cosmic polarities within us. And then once a practitioner has a sense of his or her own inner masculine and feminine, then they can engage with another person and pull out or evoke from each other even wider range. And it's really a beautiful thing. I mean, it's a pool that has no bottom, at least that I can see in my exploration. I'd love to hear what your experience with that is as well, because if I may, one of the things I love about working with you is you occur to me as having a really solid, beautiful masculine. When we were in teacher training once and you held a structured pose for longer than anybody, like I really trust your masculine. And when you want to, because you are the magician of this, you flip into your flow and your beauty and your desire and your yearning. Wow, it's just an amazingly beautiful and magnetic feminine. And so the work shows up on you in a way that really makes what we're trying to talk about here very real and palpable.
I really accept and appreciate and accept that recognition, that reflection. It's really beautiful and it feels really good, especially because, like so many women, I think I came into this work from a world in which we are so often having to be in a masculine structure as parents, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as women who often need to watch out for our own, safety. And I think it's a really common experience that women have, that we're so in our masculine, but not even necessarily aware of how much it's required of us to be so. But there's a part of us that doesn't really want to be there. And so sometimes in relationships, that can create a kind of tension when we unconsciously are playing a role that we don't want to be the sum total of our experience, especially in relationship. And so a lot of times I believe that's the source of some of the deepest misunderstandings between men and women in relationship, but also some of the most unconscious frustrations that show up in so many ways. And so for me, becoming more aware of what aspects of my skills and the ways that I show up in the world, becoming aware which of those are masculine and serve a purpose when I become conscious of them. And then having opportunity for deepening into and understanding and having support and a container with both women and with men to feel more of what it means to be in flow, to be in my feminine experience, to be in pleasure in my body, has been such an incredible gift. And I've also been super excited to bring that awareness into my coaching around speaking, because it shows up in how we speak as well. When we're aware of which we're doing, that's where the real power is. And I would say the same thing is true for all of us in terms of integrating those two things, like you just so beautifully said, that if I know, oh, my masculine focus on time and structure is needed now, and I can bring it consciously and intentionally, and can consciously and intentionally say, oh, I'm in a polarity practice now, or I'm in a relational experience, or I'm wanting to experience the flow and pleasure of being in my feminine and choose that now, then that's where the power lies. So I think that a lot of that aspect of polarity is really gives us so much more range and so much more access and so much more choice in how ourselves and with each other.
Total cosign on that.
Yeah.
And I love how you articulated that for yourself and for many women, there's a cultural, almost civilizational like stamp where you've had to carry this masculine that you maybe didn't even want in order to make it through the world as parents and all of that. There's an unconsciousness to that. I'd love to enter into the conversation what it was like for me on the flip side of that, and what it is like for so many men that I work with in my own containers. And that is, we as men are not encouraged from a young age to be open-hearted and vulnerable with each other. We're not encouraged to feel the pleasure in our own bodies. At the age, I have triplet 11-year-old girls. At the age my girls are now, and already for a couple of years, I can see how the boys in their class are getting shut down from their freedom and their joy in their bodies, and they're becoming overly rigid. And add into the mix, this is a whole other conversation, but add into the mix the ready access to porn, and you get a whole generation or several generations of men who don't feel ownership over their own inner feminine. They don't know what it is. And yet, to be full human beings, we need it. And the result of this in me and in so many men that I work with is we become takery. I need that feminine energy. I see that woman, I need to possess her or lock her down or fuck her or do something to vampirishly take that in. And so for me, one of the real like palpable benefits of this work has been there is a beautiful river of feminine inside me. It's mine. Nobody can take it from me. I can burnish it and hold it and grow it and be the container for it. So therefore, when I enter into any sort of dyadic relationship with someone who's a woman, be it my partner or when we teach together or in polarity practice in teacher training, I don't need to take from you. I get to be in dance with you, in conversation with you, and there's mutual respect that is embodied and whole. And it's a whole other basis for relating. And you were talking about, and you and I talk about a lot, intimacy and connection. If I don't feel whole and I need to get something from you, that's not real connection. But if I feel whole and I see you as whole, then we can relate in a way that is so whole and open and deep.
Oh my God, so beautifully said. So beautifully said. I think the pieces that I take from how you just described that in such a gorgeous way, the emphasis and the understanding of sovereignty. We need our own sovereignty, sovereignty in our own feminine and our own masculine each, plus the range of access to all of those energies in us, but also more and more deep understanding of what the underlying needs are of the other. And I think when we explore those and also create more freedom and opportunities to connect in those ways, like you said, we get that opportunity to have such a different and deep connection that is super rare in our culture right now. And when you talk about the impact of porn, and then combine it with the fact that there aren't very many opportunities for people to connect in deep ways, along with the fact that people don't have skills for communication and for connection, you get a culture where people are so hungry and yearning for something they almost don't know what it is.
That's right. I certainly wouldn't have been able to articulate it to you 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I just knew I was hurting and alone.
Exactly. And I think that's the common experience for many, both men and women, is experience of disconnection and hurt and wanting something different that is almost unnameable or unknowable, but then comes out in frustrations and disagreements and in unhappiness. And so I see so much pain in the world right now. And especially as, going back in the dating world, as I know we've both been at various stages of that and getting to explore what it means to be in the world of new relational exploration. Overarchingly, what I see and feel is disconnection, missing on all the ways. And that's sort of the general top level. But what's your experience?
100%. And not only in my own experience dating, I'm in partnership now, so I haven't dated for a while, but in when I was dating, and you and I have had many wonderful conversations about, the miscues that we've found in the dating world, and within the work that I do with guys, I hear it in dating, but I also hear it in relationship. Men who've been married for 20 years are missing their wives, and their
Yeah.
wives are missing them. So it's all over the place. And I just want to highlight something you said that really drew a connection for me, afresh, let's say. And that is, I can't remember exactly how you put it, but if I don't feel complete, if I'm missing something and I'm engaging with you because I need something from you, I'm not going to see you as you are. I'm going to see you as the whole I need you, as the missing piece that I need you to fill in me. And so, therefore, real connection is not it's going to be a bar to connection. And in my experience, there's real work to be done within our own, uh, for me, among men, because when I let other men hold me, I I don't have that feeling of neediness with them. And so I can explore my inner feminine in a way that is safe, that allows me to get it up on its feet. I needed other men to discover my inner feminine. I know that sounds paradoxical, but it's not, because we are all masculine, feminine beings. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the difference between the work you do and like the January 6th men's rights movement? This is the difference. They think men are men and women are women. The truth is, we are all both along some gradient or some series of gradients. And I have a set point, but part of the work that I do is to expand my range and flexibility so that in conversation with you, we can be polarized in this direction, and then we can flow into the other one if we want to. And so I just want to underline that it's deep wisdom. What we're missing is findable in ourselves. And when we do that, we open to deeper connection with each other. And that, in a way, is what we teach when you and I stand at the front of the room together,
Yeah.
in a small, modeled way.
That's beautiful. And I think what you might be referring to in terms of a past conversation is when I was saying that there are aspects of our empowerment as men and women that historically we've outsourced to the other, either because of culture or because of our own inclination. And for men, it has been outsourcing of the social and emotional world and competency to women that, like you said, is findable within yourself, in your own feminine, but historically we've outsourced it. And women economically and in our culture have, I don't know if they've outsourced it, but it has been generally put in the hands of,
It got
it's a whole
outsourced.
complex
Yeah.
world. It's been a whole complex world, but certainly my generation, I think it's changing in younger generations, but certainly in older generations where women, that was an outsourced thing that was in the realm of, women didn't have sovereignty in terms of power and finances. And so when we have something essential outsourced to someone else, we're in need. And when we're in need, we can't really, like you said beautifully, see each other and connect with each other and choose each other, really, to actually choose each other. We're choosing out of need. And so circling back to what you just talked about how this is connected to the work that we're doing in our teaching, and why we need feminine circles for women to connect with their own feminine and masculine too, and masculine circles for men to connect with the embodiment of the masculine and feminine separately, that creates the place where we can come together. And let's talk a little bit about how we're using this model of the two separate experiences of embodiment as the foundation for bringing introductory polarity. Do you want to share a little bit about how that's structured and why we're doing it that way?
Sure. So, yeah, so we have an offering that we have built together called Embodiment Lab. And it's a place for men and women to come for an evening or a day, depending on the length of the container. And our next one is in Alaska in a couple weeks. Depending on the population that we're dealing with, sometimes we need an introductory, what is embodiment? And what are masculine and feminine energies, or what is structure and flow within your system? So we'll do a little bit of a warm up where everybody together will do something more structured, more masculine practice, and then something more pleasure based and flowing, more feminine practice. And then we separate. I take the men to one place and you take the women to another place. And I know what I do on my side. I know what you do on your side. We know what each other does, but I'll speak to mine, right? Um, is I help the men ground, open their hearts, and really feel their infinite stillness without closing down. A lot of men know how to like get still and watch TV, but to get still and open their hearts to what's in front of them, to let the present moment unfurl in all its beauty without needing anything from it. This is a practice. So that's what we do. What do you do when you take the women aside?
You probably have a pretty good idea because you've done some feminine practices too, but mostly our focus is on deep connection with the authentic experience of being in our bodies in all the ways it shows up emotionally, physically. Now, when we do the introductory evenings, it's very basic and is focused on having the experience of being in our bodies when we're used to being in action, being in movement, being in performative mode so much of the time. So much of the experience of being in a feminine body in our culture is about what you look like and how someone else sees you and how you sound and how you're presenting your experience to be, rather than dropping into the experience of really being in your body. So the embodiment practices that we do separately are the basis for how we come back together. So that we come from the place of being deeply dropped into our own embodied experience.
One of the presets that I had coming into polarity work, that it was all like lovey on the feminine side and mountain on the masculine side. And the truth is, like, if we really feel into our bodies within ourselves, and again, when we're in partner practice, the masculine and feminine, the masculine is just awareness. It's just that consciousness of what is right now. And the feminine is experience, the truth of the heart as it is right now. One of the most powerful partner practices I've had in teacher training was where my partner was raging at me because that was the truth of her heart at that moment. And it was so beautiful because it was so true. And I felt called to get wide and ground down and become the witness, the awareness of that. Just a little side note geek out.
What I want to say about that is, you talked about how it's an endless depth, and what you just described is a really good example. And sometimes when we go into more in-depth embodiment practices and feminine embodiment practice, we go through all of the emotions in terms of whether it's grief or yearning or anger or rage even, but that we're also creating an opportunity for people to experience it in a little bit more gentler way in Embodiment Lab.
That's right.
And That's so there's the rich opportunity for more range and more access to the whole experience of being human. But where we start in Embodiment Lab is with deep but simple self-connection, and that we bring to each other in the partnered part of Embodiment Lab an experience of what it is to see our partner as a beautiful, delicate human sitting in front of us, and to be seen in the most basic way as a human, and how the other person can be a proxy or a stand-in for maybe the other masculine or feminine relationships that we've been hurt by, loved, known, seen. And I think there's something that's so powerful that I've experienced both as a participant in someone else's leadership, but also in our leading and teaching of Embodiment Lab, where the experience of being seen in that way and being connected in that way is so damn profound and yet so simple. When I get to both experience that and also see people having that experience in Embodiment Lab, it brings up so much conviction and passion and commitment for bringing any aspect of and all the pieces of this work as it relates to connection and love to the world, because it feels so needed and so important
and so deep
and so
and
deep.
so healing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of like the last time we led Embodiment Lab and down in here on the Central Coast, when we came to the third part, to the partner practice, and had people just look in each other's eyes. It was very simple. I'm reminded of the very first time that I was led, like an introductory meditation class, and deep into it got just a taste of that space without thought. Never had it before. And the feedback that we got from the public, from our participants in Embodiment Lab, maps with what you and I were talking about our own personal stories. You came to this work having had to, as so many women do, have a strong masculine because men are takery and, to protect your own safety. And men, as I did, often come with this preset of like, oh, she's hot. And for all of our couples in that Embodiment Lab to just have a moment, like that moment of space with no thought, to go, here's another human being. I don't need anything from them, but I do like seeing their heart and I feel safe here. That's it. That's all we're doing.
And I think
And it's a lot.
And it's a lot. And one of the
That's right.
beautiful things about the last one, Embodiment Lab in Southern California, was seeing people of all different backgrounds who didn't know each other, of all different ages. All of it transcends age.
Yeah, we had people paired who were as much as 50 years apart in age.
And a lot of the people came to it thinking, oh, I don't know if I fit here because I'm young or because I'm old. And I think that once they had the experience, they realized, oh, has absolutely no relevance to it. So everyone's welcome. And so let's talk just a little bit about the logistics. We do have Embodiment Lab. We've done it as a short event, a one-day event, and we're going to be doing it as a 2-day event in near Anchorage, Alaska in September. And I'll put the information to sign up for that or to get more information about it in the notes and in the comments. We also are super excited to offer it in other places and partner with yoga studios or other practitioners of all different modalities who might see that there's a need for a new kind of connection, either with self and or with in partnership, or in, what did you call it, dyadic relationships? Is that what you said?
A little geeky, but yes.
We're
yoga
geeky.
Right? Yeah.
Relational geeks.
Relational geeks. Yeah. Yeah.
So I am so honored. You're so embodied in your speaking about this work and so clear. And it's just such a gift to get to evolve this work with you and to bring it to the world in collaboration with you. And I'm super grateful about the opportunity of getting to do this work at all, but in particular, getting to do it with you. And so thank you so much for all that you're bringing to your own practice, to your own evolution as a man in this world, as a model for so many men, young and older, and in creating the work that you're doing to bring men together.
Thank you, Lisa. Right back at you. There's such depth to the way that we work together.
Is there anything else that I missed, or shall we just put the information that people might need in the comments in the show notes? Or is there anything else that you wanted to finish with?
No, let's put the information on Alaska, and we'll have other ones coming up soon.
Yeah, and anyone can reach out to us if they want us to come. We can bring it to other communities too.
Right, and we both have containers for men and women. We each have containers for men and women who are interested in this work.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, please share what you're doing and what people need to know about how they could connect more deeply with you or what your containers are like, and I'll do the same. Go ahead.
Sure. My website is workingdeep.com. And I do three things. I host a weekly drop-in men's embodiment circle over Zoom. Men can come any Saturday. It's Saturday, 7 a.m. For 108 minutes, 7 a.m. to 8:48 a.m. Pacific time over Zoom. It's $20. I told you about the first embodiment circle I went to. I've modeled mine on the same one. I would not have gotten into this work if it had been like a John Weinman, $10,000 bar to entry thing. And I mean, I'm all there now, but when I signed up, I needed a lower bar to entry. So that's my service, is offering a low bar to entry men's embodiment work over Zoom. I also do a lot of work with men in groups of 4. I call them quads. These are 3-month long containers, and all the men in a quad have some commonality of where they are in life. Either they're in the middle of a divorce, or they're young creatives starting out a career, or they're young fathers who have just basically lost their wives to their children. And how do they deal with that? And then I work one-on-one with men who want the deepest practice of embodiment and coaching from me.
I absolutely love that quad structure. That is brilliant. I haven't heard of anyone doing it exactly like that. And I love that you have found a commonality that they all share as a foundation for working with them. I have a new program starting in October called The Unveiling, or the Feminine Unveiling for women. And it's a group coaching program for women who want to explore in a sister circle the full expression of their body, mind, heart, soul, and eros, for the purpose of living a fuller life or making transitions in whatever way their hearts are yearning for. I'm really excited about it as an offering, and there'll be information in the show notes. I also work with a very small number of men one-on-one, because I believe that sometimes while men are needed in men's journeys, and part of my one-on-one coaching will always involve working with men as well, that there's a lot of wisdom that men can benefit from working with a woman, especially if it's a woman that's of the same age or older than the men who are looking for coaching. Those are my primary offerings right now, and I'll put information about Speed's contact and also mine in the show notes. And Speed, thank you so much for taking the time, and I can't wait for the next evolution.
I just want to quickly co-sign
Yeah.
that you working with men. There's sometimes in our field a frowning upon that for all the right reasons, because we can be leaky. And there are things that I have only learned from an oracle. There are things that I have only learned from a wiser woman my age or older. I count you among them. I think that is a great offering for you. And then if you are suffering in your life right now and you think you need to be unlocked in that way, Lisa is your woman. Powerful, powerful transmission.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so much, Speed. I really appreciate that. Okay. Mwah. Thank you for being here, everyone. We'll see you next time. Until then. Thank you for being with me here today. If there is anything you liked in today's episode, if you could help us grow the channel by hitting the subscribe button. You can also make a comment. Let me know what resonated with you, or what types of information and content you'd like to see in the future. You can also hit the notification button that looks like a bell, and it will let you know when we release future videos. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.